Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast, episode number 141, The Return of Heartland Bowhunter, Shawn Luchtel and Michael Hunsucker. Managing the farm, prescribed control burns, trimming the canopies, and timber management. Please support our sponsors as they make this show possible.
Today's show is sponsored by Morris's Sporting Goods and the Euro Hanger.
Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
This is Cameron Coble, the average Joe blue-collar bow hunter, and you're listening to my number one favorite podcast of all time, Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hey everybody, this is Dr. Grant Woods from Growing Deer TV. You're listening to one of my favorite deer hunting podcasts on the internet, the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hi, I'm David Girizzo.
And I'm Dean Girizzo.
From tagandbrag.tv, and you're listening to our favorite hunting podcast, Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast.
Welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. My name's Jay. What's your name over there, buddy?
My name is Dusty. I'm super damn excited about the show, Jay.
That's awesome. Hey, thanks for joining us on the Big Buck Podcast. I don't know what you're doing right now exactly because I can't see you, but my guess is you're on your phone listening to the show, and you're maybe driving or maybe just hanging out, having a cup of coffee. I don't know, but hey, we want to say thank you for joining us here on the Big Buck Podcast. Just fantastic. We've got a repeat guest this week, Dusty. It's somebody we haven't talked to in a while.
Yeah, it's glad I reached out to them guys, and man, I think it's going to be an awesome show, Jay. Who we got?
We got a couple of guys we haven't talked to in quite a while. Actually, we've had them on the show just under 2 years ago, but we thought it was time to reach out to some of our old friends and kind of see what they've been up to lately.
Yeah, they're two great guys, Jay, by the way. You know, these are two fabulous guys that are well known in the industry, and man, do they produce some of the best TV your eyes have ever focused on. Really, I mean, that's a true statement right there. Produce a great TV show. They're two wonderful guys that are really down to earth, and we really enjoy talking with them.
Yeah, very talented young men, and I didn't realize that they were only not even 30 years old yet. That's the crazy part. And they're really kind of rocking the whole outdoor industry television scene. It's Heartland Bowhunter with Michael Hunsucker and Shawn Luchtel. And you reached out to them, say, hey guys, it's time to come back on our show because you've been up to an awful lot over the last couple of years, and we need some updates. So sure enough, they're coming on the show today.
Yeah, you know, just two great guys, Jay. There's really not words to describe how wonderful these two guys really are.
Yeah,
you know, when we see them at the show, they've always been real, you know, down to earth, man. Just two guys that we could hang out with, they're real good buddies of ours.
Exactly, they're just good guys, good friends. They you know, kind of yuck it up a little bit and joke around. And if you'd like to listen to the original show, it's actually episode number 062, Heartland Bowhunter. But before we get to our latest interview with Shawn and Michael, let's turn to Jim Keller with the Deer News.
The Deer News this week is sponsored by the Euro Hanger. You don't have to spend big bucks to hang your big buck. Get yourself a Euro Hanger. Facebook.com/Eurohanger, EUROHANGER.
For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News. Our first story, Wisconsin DNR compiles list of problem callers. This story was initially reported by ABC Channel 2 WBAY in Green Bay. The Wisconsin DNR has compiled a list of more than a dozen people it refuses to deal with. Like any DNR office, they deal every day with many calls from people who have questions or concerns. The DNR began developing the list in 2013 to track what were considered repetitive or abusive tactics. This list does not impact in any way people who call with legitimate questions or concerns. Columbine survivor, now a lawmaker, pushes to legalize guns in school. This story comes to us from the USA Today website. Colorado State Representative Patrick Neville, a survivor of the Columbine High School shooting, introduced a bill on Tuesday, February 23rd that would legalize guns in Colorado schools. The only thing that is going to stop murders intent on doing harm is giving good people the authority to carry a gun to protect themselves and our children, Neville said in a statement. The bill put forward by Neville, a Republican, would let teachers with concealed weapon permits carry guns at the state schools. Neville introduced the same bill last year, which failed. Unfortunately, the current system continues to leave our children as sitting targets for criminals intent on doing harm, Neville said. For additional details, there are several different articles on the internet, so check our show notes or even Google Mr. Neville's name. Indiana Senate grapples over high-fenced hunting. Senate Bill 109, a bill that offers some regulation to high-fenced hunting facilities, like its predecessors, is creating controversy in the state of Indiana. For those not completely against high-fenced hunting operations, the bill still falls well short of the regulations many believe are needed to keep Indiana's deer populations safe from risks created by these types of operations. The bill would have the State Board of Animal Health oversee these operations rather than the Department of Natural Resources. The bill has passed the Senate and House and now requires signature by the governor to become law. If you oppose these types of facilities or prefer different laws regulating them, you will want to reach out to Indiana Governor Mike Pence's office and ask that the bill be vetoed. Ann Arbor, Michigan deer cull reduces herd by 63 deer. This story comes from the mlive.com website. Ann Arbor, Michigan's first ever deer cull has concluded with 63 deer killed and 0 safety incidences. 14 city parks and nature areas were temporarily closed as U.S. Department of Agriculture sharpshooters were hired in an attempt to kill up to 100 deer in these overpopulated areas. The USDA was approved to incur costs of up to $35,000 by the city during this process, which ran only on weekdays from January 2nd through March 1st of this year. This process concludes 2 months of intense controversy, protests, and litigation. The city plans to conduct culls annually as part of a 4-year deer management program. The city is also considering non-lethal methods and has a total budget of $90,000 for deer management over the year. As a result of the cull, over 1,000 pounds of venison was donated to the Food Gatherers Charity to feed the hungry. Reminder, you're listening to this podcast on Saturday, March 12th. Don't forget about the 3rd annual Shed Rally going on today. For more information on the Shed Rally, please check our website at www.bigbuckregistry.com. That concludes this week's edition of the Big Buck Registry's Deer News. If you have any ideas for future topics or have questions about any of these topics, please email me at jim@bigbuckregistry.com. For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News.
All right. Thanks to Jim with the Deer News. And without further ado, here is Shawn Luchtel and Michael Hunsucker from HEARTLAND BOWHUNTER. Shawn and Michael, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. What's happening, gents?
Hey, how's it going? Not too much. Just got in some shed hunting.
All right, so Shawn, you've been shed hunting all day. And Michael, what have you been doing all day?
I've been stuck in the house, in the office, working and dealing with a newborn baby.
That'll keep you locked into the house for sure.
Seriously, Jay, you had to go
I was looking out the window with binoculars, bro, trying to spot some with binoculars, dreaming about being out there.
Yeah, I figured we'd get that out of the way. I just wanted to establish that.
Sorry.
Last time we talked to you guys, one of you was on a boat in a fishing tournament, and one of you wasn't. What was going on there? Where were you guys at that point?
Yeah, that was me. I was fishing the tournament with Nate at the time.
So, Mike, you were fishing, and Shawn, you were not fishing.
No, I was at home doing yard work.
Okay, so this is like karma coming back.
Yeah, roles have been reversed a little bit.
Roles have been reversed on this show this time around. So, okay. So
exactly right.
It's perfect. It's perfect. So then I think we met up at the ATA a couple years ago, and we had just done a quick photo op with Gregg Ritz, as I recall. And then, Michael, we went strolling along. We're going to go talk to you guys at the media room and do a quick interview. And we stopped for another photo op. And, Michael, you took the most perfect picture of me and Dusty.
Lee and Tiffany. And you took the most pristine, perfectly dimensioned photo that you can imagine. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, man, I can work wonders with the camera phone, okay?
You're pretty good with the camera, man.
I don't know about the big cameras, but I can do some point and shooting with a cell phone all day long.
Perfect exposure. It was fantastic. Thank you for doing that. So fast
we
forward.
film most of our show on the iPhone, so I'm pretty familiar.
Are you serious?
Yeah, real serious. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it's probably you should get an award for that one for sure. That's crazy. No, I appreciate all the things you guys have been doing, and we always have a good time when we see you at different shows. And thank you for doing that picture that day. It meant a lot. Okay, so fast forward to today, Mike. You're in a house. Your life has changed a little bit. Shawn, you're out and about. You've been shed hunting all day. Let's talk about the shed hunt a little bit. Where are you at right now?
I'm in northern Missouri in an undisclosed location, and
undisclosed location.
Perfect.
And we were just out walking all day long. We started about 8, and here Central Time it's 6:42 right now, and we just finished up. We picked up between the three of us. We picked up 28 sheds today, so it was actually the best day that we've ever had.
Wow. Let's talk about some of the sheds you found. Anything of significance? Anything that stuck out?
Yeah. We picked up a match set from last year to a deer that we call the Sticker 9, and then we picked up a match set to him again from this year today as well.
Wow.
And those sets were probably, they were at least a half a mile apart. So he, between last year and this year, just the location of the food that he was on was obviously different, and that's where he was moving to, and that's where he ended up dropping his sheds. And then I'm trying to think here. He picked up another match set to a 4-year-old that we passed late season just because he had made it all the way through the season. We thought, well, might as well let him go another year if he's made it this far. Typically, we would have shot a deer like that, but he made it through rifle season and all that, and it was getting towards the end of bow season, and there's too many bow hunters around here outside of us, so we let him go and picked up his sheds as well. So those were the two that stand out the most.
Gotcha. Are both of those deer on your?
Jay,
go ahead. Yeah.
Hold up.
10-4.
I hear Mike's blood pressure rising over the phone there. I can hear it.
No.
Mike, does this pain you to listen to the adventures of the day?
Oh no, it's all good. They get to get out there and find the sheds, and I got my fair share in before the baby came, so I'm not too sad about it, I guess.
Gotcha. Congratulations on your new baby, by the way.
Hey, thank you.
That's awesome. So, Shawn, these the sheds that you found, are these target deer for next season?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Both of those deer will be on our hit list. We will for sure shoot them if they come into range.
All right. Shed hunting there's a strategy to it. It's not just it's somewhat just walking around, but where you are. What's the weather like? What's the snow cover like? You got anything going on that would?
No, actually, this year's been phenomenal as far as weather. We're having the earliest spring that I can remember. Everything's starting to green up, which is unusually early. Typically, it wouldn't be like this for another 3 weeks. And I think today it was in the 60s. In fact, the match set that I was first talking about, the Sticker 9, we went into this area and burned. It was like 2-3 weeks ago, and since it's such an early spring, everything's greening up. And I had trail camera photos of him about a week and a half ago, and he was still carrying his rack. And he focused on that greenery that was coming back from that burn, and that's where his sheds dropped. So, I don't know where I was going with that, but it's amazing that you burn an area, you shed hunt it, and you think, oh, nothing will be there. And we were walking from a distance and actually spotted him from probably like 100 yards away.
Interesting. All right, so you have some controlled burns going on at the same time?
Yep. We focus on different burn units each year. We don't typically burn in the same spot over and over, year after year. But
right.
Unless we're trying to get rid of some invasive species or just promote the native grasses in the area. And so we'll go in and burn an area, and then next year we'll typically give that area a break and then go to a different area and burn that. I want to say we have 3 or 4 different units that we've already burned this year. And it's phenomenal just to see the regrowth that comes back the next year. But anyways, back to what I was talking about. As far as areas that we look, you just got to think about where the food is or was during the winter months, and that's typically where you're going to find the majority of your sheds.
Okay, so you're
we leave a lot of crops standing, corn and beans, so we typically tend to hold a lot of deer late season and pull deer from the neighboring properties. So the deer spending the majority of their time when they're on their feet, they're not doing a whole lot of a lot else besides going to bed and coming back to feed. And so typically they'll bed pretty close to those food sources. So anywhere like in and around those food sources are pretty much the hot spots.
Okay. So you're kind of shed hunting in agricultural areas, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's like Mike said, we have some fields that we left standing, and early on this afternoon we decided to go over to this giant block of timber. I want to say it's probably a 300-acre area of timber, and we were going to the bedding areas in there, the thickets and stuff, and we really weren't picking up much, and just a few sheds here and there. And finally I was like, all right, let's stop wasting our time and go where we know to go, closer to the food sources. And what do you know? Later in the afternoon, everything changed. We started picking quite a few more up again.
Interesting. So your efforts in the bedding areas were not producing, but all your efforts or a lot of the efforts that you put into the feeding areas is where everything was dropping. That's what you were finding.
Yeah, the bedding areas that are closer to the food sources for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
You think that's a good typical strategy for most parts of the country?
Absolutely. And if there aren't, if there's no ag left, and there's got to be something there that the deer are feeding on, or else they're just not there, and you're not going to find any sheds.
Gotcha.
But
I was just going to say that they're all going to have a preferred food source,
right.
Whatever that is, and typically that time of year they're focused on conserving as much energy as possible, so they're going to be usually bedded somewhat close. They're not going to bed a half mile and travel that food source every day. Assuming there's good cover by the food source, that's where they're going to be.
Gotcha. All right. Now, these control burns have intrigued me, actually. I've been seeing more and more of this with certain aspects of our friends on Facebook. It seems like more people are getting into these controlled burns. Have you guys done this for years, and has it been part of your strategy overall?
I'd say we got into it about 3 years ago. Joel Taylor, a guy that works for us, used to work for the conservation department, and that's where he basically got all of his knowledge of it and passed it on to us, and it's helped us out a lot with it. And since then, you can see the difference tremendously. And there's a lot more that goes into it than just being like, oh, well, let's just walk over here and burn this down.
Walk us through the process of a controlled burn real quick, if you would, Shawn.
So basically, you gotta know which way the wind is blowing for one, and then also how high the wind is going to be blowing each day that you're going to burn. And then it's also highly based on humidity levels. If your humidity levels aren't going to be below 50%, you're probably not going to get a very good burn or even get it to light very well. And the lower your humidity levels from there, the hotter your fire is going to be. You gotta also look at what type of fuels you have to burn. So, like, is there a thick underbrush, a good leaf litter that you're going to be burning? Or, if there isn't, then you're probably not going to get a very good fire. And if your wind is over 15 miles per hour, you probably don't want to burn because it could get out of hand. And then typically when you go into starting the fire, you're going to go to the downwind side and start your black line, which is what's going to stop your fire from when you light it on the upwind side. So you'll basically start on the back side, get your black line going, put out the back side of it, and then so it'll slowly burn upwind. Then you'll circle around to the upwind side and light it off, and then it'll just blow right through your burn unit. Gotcha.
Do you have to have permits to do this stuff where you're at?
Not in rural Missouri. Where I live, yes. It's closer to a suburban area. I live on 60 acres, and if I want to burn there, I first have to apply for a permit, and then from there, once I've been accepted or given the okay to burn and gotten the permit, I also have to call the fire department to let them know I'm going to and still seek their permission. Or sometimes, I might think it's a great day, but there might be a fire ban in that county, and they still won't let you burn.
Gotcha. Oh, what type of equipment are you using for these controlled burns?
So we have a drip torch, which is what your fuel goes into, which is typically, 3 parts diesel, 1 part gas, unleaded, and so you'll light that. That's what you light your fire with, and then to put out the fire, a lot of people may not even realize this, but the best tool to use is a leaf blower. You put it out with air, with a lot of wind.
Interesting.
Yeah. So when you're lighting that black line like I was talking about, as you go really slow, and you've got your guy behind you with his leaf blower, and he's putting out that fire that's pushing downwind.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. So what is the main purpose of this? You said that it is to get out of some invasive species, but it sounds like it brings back the natural grasses, which is the focus of some of the. So deer will go there to eat them, eat the fresh new grass, right? That's the point.
Yeah. So here we have on this farm we have a lot of fescue, and then we also might have some other cool season grasses that we don't want or something like that, and then. We have warm season grasses and native grasses that are somewhat there. And so we'll go in and when we burn that, we'll try and get rid of that fescue, promote those native grasses, which are fire tolerant, and they typically come back a lot better the following year. And the more you do that, the better it usually gets.
Okay. And have you seen better results with antler production, the health of the herd, since you've been doing these controlled burns?
Yeah. I want to say that everything else that we have or that we do as far as, passing up younger bucks and then weeding standing food, anything that we can help to lower their stress levels and all that is typically what makes them, helps them grow bigger each year. But yeah, that's just a piece of the puzzle that gets us to better antler growth. They feed on those warm season grasses. It's great hide for them in the summertime and in the fall and into the winter months. These grasses are phenomenal, like the big blue stem and little blue stem. They'll grow, like sometimes up to 10 foot tall, 12 foot tall. It's insane.
Oh wow, that's a hardy grass.
Yeah,
it's like
crazy.
for managing deer and population and doing all the different stuff that we do. It's not like there's one blanket solution that just makes everything better, right? So you can't just go in and plant a couple food plots and expect overnight results, but it's one of those deals to where if you're passing deer, you're planting food, you're promoting cover, you're making sure there's good water sources. It's all like Shawn said, there's so many pieces of that puzzle that the more that you can do in all those areas, the better.
It sounds like this is part of a larger management strategy, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely, and like I said, we've only been doing it for this part, the controlled burns for 3 years. It's still something that. We're learning. We haven't mastered it completely. Joel's actually, he's pretty dang good with it. He knows how to identify plants very well, and he's actually the one that's helped me with all of that and helped me understand, why we're doing it and what grass is what, and if it's a good one or if it's a bad one or if there's an invasive species in there or anything like that.
And you said this is Joel?
Yeah, he works for us,
okay.
Joel Taylor.
All right, so he has some kind of a background in all this stuff, it sounds like.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Good person to have on your staff. So,
absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit more about your game management strategy, or the land management specifically. This is a great time of year to talk about it because you're kind of transitioning out of shed hunting into getting ready to grow stuff, basically, when it in the next couple weeks or so, I would imagine. You're starting to think about that kind of stuff. How many acres are we covering in this particular farm you're talking about?
This one is 865.
Okay. All right. And is it part of multiple farms that you manage, or is this it?
This is one solid block. But we have other farms that we do manage. This is basically our main one, though.
Okay. And how many farms are we talking about altogether?
Let's say, what do we have, like 4 or 5 in Missouri, Mike?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, this one is the one that we do spend the majority of our time on that.
Okay, that was my next
question.
Yeah,
we have a variety of properties. We have, the main farm that Shawn's talking about that we spend a lot of time on. Then we have, other farms that are smaller that we own or that we lease. They're all kind of different setups and different scenarios, and every piece of ground is unique. So all of our management tactics kind of vary depending on each piece of property. And something that Shawn kind of touched on about, having the knowing what species to promote, what species you want to get rid of, and that type of stuff. And we're lucky to live in Missouri where the conservation department is really helpful with that type of stuff, and they will come in and help you implement strategies on whether it's timber stand improvement or prescribed fires or any of that type of stuff. They're really helpful, and they'll come in and help you develop a plan that you can execute to help promote your property and make it better for hunting.
Oh, cool. Let's break that down a little bit then. This 800-acre farm that you have. When you first got in there, and maybe it goes back, maybe you've owned it for a while. I don't know. When were you first introduced to this particular farm?
So my dad actually bought it it'll be 4 years ago this coming June, so 3.5 years ago. And that was actually the year after EHD hit really hard throughout the Midwest. So when we got it, it was pretty much at its lowest point.
So it's making us look like heroes in the former management. The difference in the past 3 years, but a lot of that's just replenishing the age structure and building the age structure back up because it was just wiped out hard.
Okay, so your dad acquired this property, and what was it? What was the design of this property at that point? What were you handed over? Was it a pre-managed farm, or is it something that you really had to start from scratch?
There was some source of management on this prior to us, I believe. I don't know the full background on all of it, but like I said, with the EHD, I don't know that any of that really went into effect anyways because the majority of the deer
didn't matter.
At least the mature deer were wiped out from the disease.
Gotcha. All right. So you've got a clean slate. You've got some land that was probably managed agriculturally, but the herd didn't matter because they weren't there. They've been destroyed.
That's right.
All right. So you're really starting with a brand new, the gene pool, I guess, whatever made it through is your gene pool going forward. And you have to figure out how to take a decimated herd and make it thrive again because of a virus that took over.
That's right. Yep.
So what do you say to each other back then? What do you say? Well, we've got no deer. What are we going to do? What was the strategy at that point?
Well, there were still quite a few deer. There were actually a ton of younger deer. I remember the first year that we did have it that summer. We were sitting over some of the bean fields, and I think we were seeing like 60-some deer. Or we saw 60-some deer one night just scouting, and there were really only a couple mature bucks from what we caught, and we targeted them. But for the most part, we were planning on shooting a lot of does, and that's exactly what we've done in the past 3 years. I think we've killed, close to 30 between us and our friends on here.
Okay. All right. And Mike, you said that the state comes in and helps you to manage and come up with a game plan. Is that what happened here?
Well, actually, Joel started working for us about 3 years ago. So,
okay.
He had a big. He helped us a lot with the timber stuff and some of the prescribed fire stuff, but also with his connections with the state. I mean, they brought in a couple guys that did basically come in and do a survey on the timber, and some of the timber on this property was just so overpopulated and so choked down that there was literally like a 6-inch, 7-inch tree that they tested and found out that it was over 100 years old. So it was just so stressed out because of the competition, and there was no sun reaching the forest floor, right? So that the canopy was just so overgrown that nothing else can grow and compete. So that's part of something in addition to the prescribed fires that we do is the timber stand improvement to weed out some of those trees and thin some of them out, and you want to remove some of the more invasive species and promote the more healthy species and kind of open that forest floor back up. So in combination of doing the timber stand improvement and then also prescribed fire and forest burns have helped kind of improve that, because right now, I mean, you guys have all seen it if you've been out in the woods. You can see these big oak ridges, oak timber that's just literally nothing but oak trees, and there's nothing on the forest floor besides just like 6 inches of leaves covering everything, so nothing can grow. And deer are they browse 90% of the time, so they're focused on stuff that can come up on the ground floor and they can browse on. And so they just weren't basically utilizing that area of the farm. And so by us coming in and helping to improve that, we're hoping to make more of the farm beneficial to wildlife in general.
Gotcha. When you describe the timber, how much or what percentage of this farm is timber versus, or how much was timber versus
there's
fields?
only a little over 100 acres tillable, right, Shawn?
Yeah, there's 110 tillable, and then there's quite a bit though that's also open, like rolling hills with savanna grass and stuff, or savanna with just native grasses and stuff. I would say that there's of timber. Yeah, I would probably say that there's 400 acres with timber.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, at least. Yeah, I'd say 60 to 70% would be covered in timber.
Gotcha.
And then, so obviously we have 110 acres of tillable. We row crop, but then we plant quite a bit of food plots, you know, in different locations that you know are smaller that you wouldn't obviously bring a combine into.
I've been over here analyzing all of this. That Mike's at home with a newborn baby, and Shawn's posting pictures with chainsaws and stuff. So I think Mike's got the right mindset on this year.
So Shawn's doing all the work. Is that what you're saying?
I've been seeing a lot of pictures of Shawn pretty busy, and Mike, I ain't seeing much on your end.
Yeah, well, I run the business side of things too, so I'm stuck in the office doing the not so fun work. But I get out there and get out in the field quite a bit too.
I'm just giving you a hard time, man. It sounds like you got a great program going on as far as the controlled burns, and I have been seeing some pictures of you guys cutting timber. When you cut timber, are you making buck beds, or are you just clear cutting some timber out?
Yeah, we're doing the timber stand improvement stuff like Mike was talking about.
Gotcha.
Where we're just getting rid of the softwood trees, and opening up the forest canopy, and we'll do that controlled burn through there so that it can also promote like native forbs to come back on the forest floor and provide more food inside the forest for the deer.
Right on, for sure. More browsing. When you do the controlled burns, do you cut the timber first and then burn, or you cut timber after?
It doesn't matter. We'll do either or. I've noticed that a lot of times that if you do the burn first, it's you get a better burn, because when you have all of that deadfall and stuff on the ground, it'll block some of the fire and slow it down.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, yeah.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got prescribed burns going on to promote grasses. You've got canopy trimming and thinning so that you can promote browsing growth under the remaining canopy, and you've got some. It sounds like you've got some large softwoods that need to be removed. Do you want to allow some smaller growth to take over? Let some of those thin trees get bigger. They're not so stressed out, and that overall sounds like it's going to make that entire area just a healthier environment relative to deer.
Yeah, well, and actually for all wildlife.
Okay.
The turkeys with a lot of these trees that we're cutting down. The branches will fall, and then we'll go, or say we burned it, then the branches fall. A lot of these grasses and stuff, once that canopy is opened up, will come back up really thick inside of these branches that are falling on the ground, and it provides a ton of cover for turkeys to lay their eggs and or put a nest in and lay their eggs, and then just food for all sorts of wildlife. But yes,
gotcha.
That's what we're focusing on, is the deer for the most part.
All right. And was this kind of the strategy? Once you get a good layout of the land, did you have a checklist, a game plan for these are all the things we want to do, or was it just kind of a piecemeal type strategy?
Yeah, it's just always an evolving process. When we first came in to the farm, the first thing we wanted to do was establish our food plots and get those cleaned up, and figure out where we wanted each one and what we were going to plant where and why, and then from there, it was an evolving process as to other ways we could help make the farm better. And as you can tell, it's never ending. There's always something going on.
Right. I'm sure there's always another chore or task to attend to, for sure.
Yeah, and something that that I like we were talking about earlier is I really was unfamiliar with the timber stand improvement stuff and the burning 3 or 4 years ago. But you can provide so much more food for all the animals just through all of that vacant land that you can't put a food plot in or ag or anything.
Yeah. I've heard this before. It seems like standing timber on an existing farm really needs to be part of the strategy. I had a friend that bought a farm in Illinois recently, and the first thing that he hired somebody to come in and do something like this for him and help him strategize and participate in actually doing it. And the first thing he says is we got to get rid of some of the canopy right away. So it sounds like a similar situation to what you guys have encountered.
Yeah. Yep. Most timber tracts pretty much anywhere have been unmanaged for years. So, a lot of the older trees will tend to take over. Some trees will outcompete others, and it just like anything, if it's not managed, bad things might start to happen, and you can go in and better that process.
Yeah. It's fascinating to think about. You've got the usually think let's get these food plots going, let's get the agriculture going, but this is bigger than that. This is agricultural areas, grass areas, timber areas, it's a big plan, and it's just going to make the health of the entire area for growth of plants and places for animals to thrive, basically across the board.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Seeing it's this time of year, it's mid-March. You guys have to start thinking about food plots too. It sounds like you do use a lot of food plots. I'd like to get into that a little bit. Dusty, you want to kind of take the charge here and start working through food plot discussions and strategies?
Yeah, for sure. And we can, if you guys would, let's run through how you go about your food plots as far as coming into spring. Do you guys do a prescribed burn on food plots also, or is that something that you do, or do you just go in till under?
You want to go over that, Mike?
Yeah, so it just kind of depends on the food plot and what what the situation is. But typically, we don't burn off our food plots. We'll just either disc it over and start fresh, or we'll just no-till drill. It just kind of depends on the plot. So when we kind of first got this new property, we kind of set out a map and kind of looked at everything and where the food sources were. And basically, when we're planting food plots, we want to provide a variety of food for the deer. So we don't want to plant everything in corn or everything in clover or everything in brassicas, just because deer prefer a different food source throughout the time, depending on what time of year it is. So our kind of approach is to provide a variety of food. So not only are we making sure the deer are well fed throughout the year, but also that helps us kind of key in on where we want to hunt, because early season, if they're going to be hammering the beans and hammering the clover plots, the green plots, that's what we're going to focus a lot of our efforts on, and it kind of helps narrow down the possibilities of where deer will be, because we plant food plots not just to hunt over, we plant it to provide food for the deer year round. So it's there's always going to be more food than they'll need available. That's at least the plan. And so finding those food sources that they're keen on certain times of the year helps us kind of decide where we want to focus all of our efforts on when it comes to the hunting.
Right. How do you figure out to be efficient enough to keep your herd fed all year? How do you go about how much you put out? Let's say you plant corn, soybeans, and some brassicas. What do you do there to figure out your herd size and the acreage you need to put down?
It's all kind of trial and error, really. I mean, we've kind of over the years, you leave more and more food till you figure out, that how much they're going to utilize, how much they're going to eat. So obviously, also as we implement more of these management strategies over the years, we're also increasing our deer herd, and the property is able to support more deer per square mile than they would before. We created all this extra cover and brought in more food, and so that's the goal. Is we want to keep the population in check, but we also want to fully maximize and utilize the property to its fullest extent.
Yeah, for sure. How important is having your soil tested before you plant? Can you cover that?
Yeah, I mean it's huge, really, and I'm actually getting ready to do some soil samples on one of our farms here shortly, because I just didn't get the production that I was hoping to last year. I think the soils, over the years, it's we've been planting these food plots for 5, 6, 7 years, and the soil is kind of depleted. So putting back the nutrients that need to be in the soil in order for you to grow food plots is definitely key. So different food sources utilize different minerals and different types of stuff in the soil. So you want to obviously, that's why farmers rotate corn and beans, because they utilize different types of soil. So that kind of helps keep it all in check. But always, there's always got to be some sort of fertilizer or lime or something applied to really fully maximize your food plot production.
Right. Yeah. And people say that you should change up your food sources based on what you've done the year before. And is that how you guys strategize your whole food plots? Different variety in a different area each year? Yeah,
we're definitely doing rotation on the annual plots. So where we plant corn, we won't plant corn back-to-back years typically. Where we plant greens are a little bit different. You can get away with a little bit more then, but basically knowing what's in the soil and what you can plant. If you want to spend a lot of money on fertilizer, you can plant corn in the same spot every year. It'll get to a point to where it's going to need a break and the ground will be pretty depleted. But you kind of get what you put in. So if you're wanting to produce 200 bushel corn, then you're going to really need to put down quite a bit of fertilizer, depending on the soil. But on this particular farm, the topographical changes are crazy. So I mean, we'll have a lot of bottom ground stuff that's really fertile soil, and then we'll have some more rocky clay type soils, and we just kind of learned to plant the proper plots in each of those areas depending on the types of soil. So obviously clover is a little more hardy, and some of the green plots are a little more hardy. They're going to do better in the less than desirable soils, and then we're focused on more of the grains in the bottom fields where the soil is more fertile.
Right. Now you said back-to-back corn for multiple years. Is there a disease factor that comes into play there?
I don't know a whole lot about the disease and that type of stuff, but I'm sure it doesn't help. Obviously, I think doing the crop rotation is the safe way to do it. You can bet that if farmers could plant the same crop back to back to back in certain fields, they would based on the crop prices, right? So a lot of times corn is a lot more desirable than beans, but I think the safe bet is obviously to do a rotation and take care of the soil the best you can, because fertilizer is expensive. So you want to naturally manage the soil and keep it in the best shape possible without having to pour too much fertilizer into it. What
have you guys found food plot wise that seems to hold the largest quantity of deer in that area?
It's all dependent on the time of the year, right? So corn and soybeans can be really nice late season. Brassicas are another thing that's great late season. Stuff that produces, the brassicas with the big bulbs and all the leaf, they produce a lot of tonnage per acre. So literally it just depends on the time of the year. So we try to make sure that there's always and it's somewhat of an attractive food source throughout the whole year.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm going to get into a little bit of planting. We've got our soil worked and we're loading the planter up. Do we go in and plant one section soybeans, one section corn, or do we actually mix it up throughout the whole field?
Yeah, no, you definitely want to keep them separate. You wouldn't want to mix those because they utilize different resources. So you definitely don't want to mix them up. Plus the corn would produce canopy over the beans, and it would kind of stunt the growth of the beans. And there are some food plot mixes out there that do have mixes of corn and beans, but for the most part, we keep everything separate. It makes it easier when it comes to fertilizing and putting down what you need. It makes it easier when it comes to spraying and killing off weeds. So, the mixes for the green plots are fine, but for the grain stuff, it's always best to keep it separate. Gotcha. And it helps you too, like I said. So if you have a 2-acre food plot and it's all mixed corn and beans and a bunch of different stuff, the deer aren't going to be targeting a specific area to where, if you have corn on one side, beans on the other, well, early season you're hunting half the food plot. So, the odds of the deer walking in front of you are twice as good because it's a lot smaller area.
Right. So you're saying on your corn and beans that you would split it up and have 2 acres of beans if you got 2 acres and 2 acres of corn separate out. Yeah, just try and break it down for our listeners to, get a little better understanding how the food plots all work. And so let's get into a little bit about chemicals. Does chemicals play a role in what you use as far as, is it going to hurt my herd, my deer? Is that something that plays a factor when you're going to spray your beans and corn?
No, all that stuff. All that stuff is tested and certified. This is stuff that farmers are harvesting and we're all eating. So it's not like there's any issues there as far as negative effect on the deer. But we do some Roundup Ready stuff, some Roundup Ready corn, Roundup Ready soybeans, clover, broadleaf stuff you can spray as well to control the weeds. And so chemicals are definitely something that that are important if you want a really healthy plot that's going to produce a lot of food.
Perfect. Jay, you want to get into some hunts with these guys?
Yeah, let's talk to you guys about some hunts that you might have been on over the last year or so, and I'm sure you've got some good stories that we haven't heard yet, and I don't want to let the cat out of the bag for some of your shows, but I wanted to see if you could take us on a couple of memorable deer hunts. Maybe Michael, you can take us on a hunt, and Shawn take us on a hunt individually, and then kind of like do a play-by-play. Tell us where we're setting up and walk us through what happens, and maybe even lead up to that kill shot. Might have started a few months ago. I don't know. But would you bring us on a hunt, one each? Would that be cool?
Yeah. I'll talk quickly about one of my favorite hunts last year was probably a hunt that I had in Wyoming.
Wow. Okay, we're going to Wyoming this time. Nice.
Yeah. So northeast Wyoming, near Devil's Tower area. It's an area that's known to have a lot of deer, holds a lot of deer. Great food, great covering, and lots of water. So just a natural area that holds a lot of deer. And it was kind of a do-it-yourself type hunt. The guy that owns the ranch was wanting to start selling some deer hunts, and he was wanting us to come out there, do a hunt, and kind of help work with him and tell him how he might be able to improve his property and make it better for hunting. And so it was kind of unique because it was a spot where, we knew nothing going into it, right? So this is a big 8,000 acre ranch.
Yep.
And we had to go there, kind of figure out what was going on and try to kill a deer. So one of the guys that we know that lives out there, I sent him some trail cameras. He put up some cameras a couple weeks before I'd gotten there. Gave me enough information to kind of get a game plan together and kind of know at least what deer were on the property so that we could key on, specific deer. And when I got there, we had pictures of basically 2 bucks that we wanted to go after, and they're actually on the same camera using the same area. And it just so happened to be because of the preferred food source was right there in this area. And this area was a lot different than some of the other ranches that I'd hunted there in the past, just because it wasn't managed specifically for deer, right? It's a cattle ranch, and so there just wasn't. There was quite a few deer, pretty high numbers, but the quality and the age structure wasn't there like it has been on some of the other ranches that we've hunted out there. So basically, we came into this no stands hung or anything like that, so we needed to figure it all out. And so when we got there, we kind of knew an area that these deer were using, and it was a big draw. It's a lot of the pines and open pasture type stuff, and so this draw was kind of leading into the spring, and so we knew the deer were utilizing the spring. The water was, water's only in select areas, so they were definitely keen on water, being that it was early season. It was a hunt in early September, so we hung a stand in this draw to where, it was basically one of those deals where you could shoot all the way across the draw, 60, 70 yards if you needed to, but to the bottom of the draw was only about 35, 40 yards. So we set a stand there, but we decided, we'd hang a couple stands and just kind of scout and spend the first couple of days, just kind of scouting and overlooking the property. So that's what we did. We hung the stand, got out of there, and we went the next morning glassing, and we actually found the buck the next morning feeding in the field, and we watched him feed off that morning and go into that draw to bed. And so we're like, okay, this seems like a no-brainer. I mean, the deer, what I forgot to mention was when we got there and checked the cameras had been there for 2 weeks, right? But when we got there and checked the cameras, that buck, neither one of those bucks had been on the camera in over, I think it was 7 or 8 days. So they had just shed their velvet. They were kind of switching up their patterns and changed stuff, and neither one of them had been on the camera. And so we were kind of like, dang, man, I don't know what these deer went. They moved off to a different area, whatever. So when we did see the one buck, which was the biggest buck that we had pictures of, we were excited to see that he was back in that area. And so we watched him go bed back in that draw. And it never happens this way, but first night in the stand, here he comes. I think one of the first bucks we saw came right down this draw, walked right in front of us. He was about 40 yards, I think, just right at the bottom of the draw, and I was able to arrow him. And he's a stud, great deer for that area. He was about 150-inch deer, which out there the deer are kind of smaller bodied, and the racks are kind of proportionate to their body. I mean, he looked like a booner on trail camera, so giant buck for out in that area. And literally 45 minutes later, the other buck that we would have shot to comes right by us too, right underneath the stand. So for whatever reason, they hadn't been in that area or hadn't been using it the past week, but they decided to relocate there for that one night. So it was a pretty cool hunt. It was one of those hunts to where, like I said, it never happens you kill, first night in the stand, and so it worked out pretty nicely. And it just kind of proved that, scouting and staying out and kind of doing your research can pay off, because, if you go in and just start hunting an area, you're spreading scent, you're going to be, winding, some deer are going to wind you, so you're educating deer. So sometimes staying out, checking cameras, scouting, glassing, scouting from afar or hunting farms from the outside in can really pay off. You don't, especially early season, because you don't want to booger a deer on a pattern, because if you do, you might not get another shot at them.
Right. Gotcha. Very cool story. So is this going to be featured in one of your shows in the upcoming?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. It'll be one of the early on shows this fall.
Very, very cool. Love it. Very nice. All right, Shawn, where are we going?
We're going to Colorado.
Colorado. All right. So
I figured that was going to be your story.
Yeah, I had hunted out there 2 years in a row now. So this is my second year. One of my friends, Santino Castellanos, who works for True Sight Media, just has invited me out to hunt some property he's had permission on, and it's up in northwestern Colorado, so it's not too terribly far from Steamboat, but just kind of rolling hills, not where we're hunting at, and it's not necessarily mountainous, and it's not that big of a tract that I can hunt, but there's a ton of deer. There's just alfalfa fields in the bottoms, and then they go back up into this oak brush to bed. And so really we just hunt them like we would a whitetail, because the oak brush is so thick you really can't stalk them. So you kind of just scout them from afar and figure out their patterns, where they're traveling through, and put a game plan together, and then go in and we just set up little natural ground lines and hunt them. There's the oak brush isn't tall enough and big enough to put a tree stand up, so we hunt from the ground. And basically, the hardest part is making sure you don't spook deer, because there's so many that come through, which is really fun until you end up blowing one deer out and the whole field clears. But anyways, we go out there every year, early September, and the majority of the bucks are still in velvet. And so this year, when we went out there, I think I had about 7 days blocked off the hunt, and we were seeing a lot of really good deer, and we were spending the majority of our time just scouting so it wouldn't mess anything up, and finding exactly what buck I was hoping to get a shot on, and figuring out what he was doing every night. And so the actual first shot that I got off was in the morning, and we got ahead of the deer as they were heading back to bed, and I snuck in and got to this opening where I could see all these deer feeding through, and this was about a 170-inch mule deer that came feeding through at 45 yards on, I think, day 6. Oh, no, I'm sorry, day 5, and drew back, perfect over-the-shoulder camera angle, and shot right under it. So I guess that was a little frustrating. So later that night, we moved over to another field where a lot of the deer were feeding out to, and there were, I think, 2 pretty good-sized mature bucks that were coming through there every night, and they're typically the last ones out, as most mature bucks are. And this real big, wide 4x4 came out and fed his way down, and it was 95 yards across the field to the other side, so they're falling right through the middle pretty much. Mm-hmm. And he came feeding along, and he was the last one, and I drew, and, well, I'm sorry, I had ranged him and then drew, but I ranged him right at 60 yards, and, I was trying to focus really hard since I'd missed earlier that morning, and guess I'd focused a little too hard and shot over his back. So that was the first time I'd ever missed 2 bucks in one day.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's a milestone that you'd rather forget.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly right. So I was really frustrated then. I was pretty down on myself, and, I'm like, all right, I don't know if this is going to happen. We just blew the field completely out, and obviously he knew what just happened. I don't know if this is going to work out. So, the next morning we just scouted, and then that following evening we were going to set back up where I'd missed the buck, because there were a couple others in there that I would definitely shoot, and that actually didn't feed out that night in daylight. So we were thinking that they would definitely come out, and sure enough, the deer that I missed actually came back out, and then in another one that I would have shot, and they were slowly feeding our way and getting ready, and it's all about to go down. And Joel was filming me on this trip, and he just had one of those random cough attacks that you get, when a fly flies into your mouth and goes down your throat. And so he had a cough attacking up along and cleared the field, and so
it's one of the worst feelings in the world.
Yeah.
That's almost like Siri. It's almost like Siri talking to you, right?
Yeah. And so we were both really frustrated that night. We left, and we actually left Colorado the next day and went to Arizona to elk hunt for 10 days, and with no success there, we still weren't ready to give up. I said, let's go back to Colorado.
All right.
On our way home. And I think I want to say it was the first evening we got back there. We set up in that same pinch point in that field and had one of the same maturity that we'd watched earlier on that month come through at 45 yards, double lunged him. He ran 500 yards and fell over. So looking forward to that hunt airing next year. It was
That's awesome. So the diversion before you went home was actually far better than, and just making a quick stop ended up being the best move you had of the whole trip.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where, you want to give up and just throw the towel in, but we didn't, and came home with a buck.
Nice. All right. Some back straps for the freezer. Love that. Very
That's
nice.
Right.
Good job.
All right, Jay, before you get into your 10 questions, I got a question for Mike.
Yep.
Did the Siri thing really happen?
All right. Preface that a little bit. Tell us what the background story.
Oh, yeah. The Siri thing really happened. Shawn and I were up at the farm trying to thin some does out, and we were also, it was kind of late in the year, but we were also, we had buck tags on us, so we got kind of selectively choosing the shots that we took, and plus we had some deer, too, that were hitting those food plots that we wanted to get some footage of, wanted to see in person, right? So we were being selective. I had a couple opportunities in longer longer shots, but decided to pass. So light's starting to fade, and here comes the doe coming in perfect. I'm like, all right, this is going to be perfect. She's coming in close. Like, everything's working out. And that time of year, man, they are super, super sketchy. And for whatever reason, like, this has never happened to me. It always happens to Brandon, who's my camera guy that films for me a lot. It always happens to him, and I can always blame it on him. But for whatever reason, I just, like, bumped it in my pocket wrong. I was like, dude. It's like, sorry, Michael, I didn't understand that. And the freaking field just cleared. All the deer just take off running. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And fortunately, though, one of them did feed back in, and I was able to shoot one that night. So it all worked out in the end. But it's kind of funny, one of those stories. Just, no matter what you can do, you never know what might screw up a hunt for you. So I think I've since turned that off, because I don't want that to happen on a big buck. That would be really, really devastating.
Right.
See this to remind you here. Hold on.
Sorry, Michael. I didn't get that.
That's right. That's what it was. Sorry, Michael. I didn't get that. Hey, at least it didn't happen to Shawn, because then we would have been in trouble, because Shawn has Siri, in his phone. He makes Siri call him badass. So it would have said, sorry, badass. I didn't hear that.
That's perfect.
Excellent.
Badass.
Oh, that's good stuff.
She tried to save the deer's life. She must be a PETA advocate, I would guess.
Yeah.
It's that.
Get rid of those.
There's actually a lady who's there's actually a person. There's actually a lady that is behind the Siri voice, and she is a voiceover actor out of California. And based off of that, I would say good chance she's on the board of PETA somewhere.
Yep, no doubt.
Yep. Very interesting, guys. Let's see. So let's talk a little bit about the show. What do we have coming up on the show, and what other adventures and things that could we look forward to from Heartland Bowhunter?
Yeah. So first things first. Coming up, the most recent thing is our third season of Full Strut, which is a mini series we produce in conjunction with Carbon TV. It's online, free. Anybody can watch it on demand anytime. And it's a mini series based on turkey hunting. So we're gearing up for spring right now. Once we're done with shed season and all that type of stuff, we usually hit it pretty hard after turkeys. So we had some incredible hunts last year. We produced 6 or 7 basically mini episodes that'll be on Carbon TV. So that'll begin airing sometime this spring, right in conjunction with turkey season. So that's
Very
our
nice.
third season of the show. Third year that we've done that. And then the new season 9 of Heartland Bowhunter comes out on Outdoor Channel third quarter, so it'll be late June, early July. That'll be the new season of shows where you can watch the stories that Shawn and I kind of just talked about. So
very cool.
Additionally, we'll be doing another season of Behind the Draw, which is another mini series on Carbon TV that will have some of the hunts that weren't featured on the show, some other hunts that'll be on that. So between we produce 13 originals for the network, and we produce 13 originals for digital as well. So between those, there's plenty of HB you guys can watch, and they're all exciting and fun hunts.
Plenty of footage, and somewhere buried within all that are the 2 hunts that you just shared with us, I would assume.
That's right, and I'm sure that Siri hunt will pop up somewhere.
The Siri hunt's in there too.
Yeah.
Excellent. And you have a class that you're teaching, right? At some point coming up this summer.
Yeah, we have a
we do
that we have every year in July typically. This is our 4th year doing it, and we cover pretty much everything we know as far as from the production side of things. We go over the basics to begin with, and our gear and all that stuff, how to run your cameras in manual settings, and then we dive into the more advanced stuff that we know as far as time lapses, some of our editing techniques, our camera equipment, and just everything that we know.
Gotcha. All right, well, we'll get some links from you regarding that, and right after the fire questions here. So let's start with some rapid fire questions here. Let's start off with Shawn, and I've got 10 questions. We'll start with Shawn's answer first, then Mike, I'll let you follow up right after, if that's cool.
Cool.
Okay.
He gets the easy part.
Maybe we'll switch it
the
up.
Rebuttal.
Yeah,
rebuttal.
We'll start off with Shawn on the first, and we'll switch it up on the second one. Okay. Of all the hunting tips that are out there, and there are a million, and you've encountered a bunch over the years, if you had to pick one, and just one, what would you say that the answer to that would be?
Let them go and watch them grow.
I like it. Michael?
Yep. Yeah, that's huge. I mean, they can't get big if they're dead. They can't get old any older if you shoot them when they're young. So that's huge. Mine was going to be being that we primarily or basically only bow hunt, is play the wind. A lot of times, novice hunters will get in there and not pay attention to the wind, and you're educating deer, you're hurting your chances, and playing the wind is key. There's so many other tips and tactics and strategies and that type of stuff, but honestly, if you're not playing the wind, you're already starting off behind.
Yep. All right. Very good. Okay. So, Mike, we'll have you answer this one first. We all have these things that we put in our backpack or a pocket or something we have to have with us when we go hunting. It's not necessarily a firearm. It could be a good luck charm of some sort, something that just makes you feel better and more confident when you're in the woods, when you're deer hunting. Maybe it has something to do with the hunt. Maybe it has nothing to do with the hunt, but you got to have it with you. It's that one thing that if you leave it in the truck, it drives you nuts. If you don't have it, you feel naked without it. What's that one thing for you?
So no doubt for me, it is the rangefinder. I got to know exactly how far and exact distances, even as fast as bows are nowadays and as efficient as they are. It's just something, just knowing, having that distance in your mind and knowing precisely where you want to aim and where you want to pick a spot. Without the rangefinder, man, I definitely feel naked.
Yep. All right. Very good. Shawn?
My bow.
Your bow? All right.
Yeah, I usually feel naked without my bow because if I don't have my bow, something's probably not going to die. But no, in all seriousness.
He's forgotten it before, too, trust me.
Really?
Yeah, I forget a lot of things.
Including your bow and arrow.
You two are great, dude. I'm telling you.
No, I would have to say my binoculars. I've done that a few times.
Okay.
It drives me nuts.
Yep.
Joel typically doesn't bring his binoculars, which also drives me crazy because if I can't see something and I'm telling him to look at it and he doesn't have his binos, then we both have no idea. But if I don't have mine, it just drives me nuts.
That drives you nuts.
See something across the field and you're like, wonder what that buck could be.
Gotcha. All right, Shawn, let's start with you on this next one. All right, so there's some kind of reference book or a favorite hunting book of some sort that we kind of hold on a pedestal. I don't know if you get into that kind of thing, but is there a certain book or magazine that you turn to more often than not to kind of get some ideas or even just growing up that kind of led you where you are today?
Since we've just gotten into mule deer hunting quite a bit, I have a subscription to the Mule Deer Foundation magazine, and I just like reading up on a lot of stories in there of successful public land hunts because we also do that out west, and so I look to a lot of those Western guys in that magazine to just learn new stuff about mule deer.
Gotcha. All right, Michael? Yeah,
and kind of piggyback off of that, the Western stuff is kind of new to us, right? So we grew up in the Midwest. We haven't spent a ton of time out west, and so really, a lot of those Western states are mainly public ground. So if you don't really know somebody or have experience hunting the areas, you're kind of in the dark. And so we work with a company called Hunt and Fool, and they do tag management to where they will help you apply for your tags and build points in different states. But they also have a subscription where they put out a monthly magazine, and they really lay out all the details, right? So if you want to go on a Western hunt and you want to start building points, they show you what units are the ones that are producing trophy caliber bulls and trophy caliber deer, but also kind of shows your odds and your draw odds, because obviously the trophy units are going to be harder to draw. So it's just a lot of wealth of information that's all kind of put into one publication, which is really nice for us, just because, like I said, we don't have a ton of firsthand experience hunting out west.
Gotcha. Yep. Very cool. All right. So Michael, how old are you today?
Today I'm 29. Tomorrow, no, I'm kidding.
All right. So it's not your birthday.
Shawn and I we're both knocking on the door of 30, so he's going to be 30 before me. He's got a few months on me.
All right. So 30's coming soon for both of you guys. Knowing what you know today at almost age 30, what would you tell the 20-year-old version of yourself?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I honestly, to be honest with you, don't have a whole lot of regrets, and I haven't had to learn. I feel like I haven't had to learn a ton of things the hard way, really. Man, I guess, I don't know. That's a tough question.
All right. Shawn,
you got anything off the top of your head? I'm trying to think.
Not one particular thing in general, but I guess I would say that when I was 20 years old, I wasn't too eager to learn a whole lot. And I feel like in the past almost 10 years, I've pushed myself to learn more and better myself, and that's what I would have told myself back then, is to learn as much as you can, because you never know when it's over.
Right.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
that's true. I mean, like all the stuff that we've talked about tonight, like the management practices and that stuff. It's like every year, we get a little more into it, a little more serious. And so, 10 years ago, we weren't doing nearly what we are now. And so, if we did have the know-how and the resources and the ability to do that 10 years ago, I can only imagine how much better our properties would be today.
Gotcha. Yep. All right. Very good. Okay.
Save me on that one. Thanks a lot, Shawn.
Good job, Shawn.
No problem.
All right. You're at a hunting convention somewhere in the country, and you're in the elevator in the hotel, and a stranger walks in and strikes up a conversation, and he asks you, "What do you do for a living?" What do you say to that person?
A lot of times it happens when I'm getting my hair cut because I don't typically go to the same person all the time, and they always ask what I do.
All right.
So it's very similar to that situation. And typically I started off with, I own a production company. I'm like, oh, well, what do you produce? And I say hunting shows, and then that usually opens up a can of worms. So not that I'm embarrassed to ever say that, what we do, because I obviously love it.
Right.
But it really sparks up a long conversation.
Yes. I understand. All right, Michael, what's your answer?
Yeah, same thing for me. I mean, I think that's kind of the basics is, we own a production company and run a production company. Then obviously people want to know more about, what do you do? What do you produce? And so we talk about, mainly hunting industry stuff. We focus on, through several different hunting TV shows. We do short films, branding films, TV campaigns. Basically kind of the same answer that Shawn had. I mean, people are always intrigued by, oh, really? You hunt? Like, that's the number one thing that I love is people are like, oh, you're so lucky. Like, you hunt for a living. That's awesome. And there's so much more to it. I mean, Shawn and I, obviously, we get to spend a lot of time in the woods and we get to hunt a lot. But we run the business, too. So we're doing the whole business side of things. My favorite question is people are like, so, like, what do you do now this time of year? You just, like, hang out? What do you do? It's like, there's really never any downtime for us between whether it's production work or office work or, growing the brand, selling sponsorships, dealing with those relationships, food plots, sheds. It is a year-round deal. It's a full-time gig, no doubt.
Yep, all year round. Yeah, there's a lot more to just hunting. It's when you're doing it as a business, it's endless. All right, Michael, what did you have for breakfast this morning?
Oh, I had some granola and a banana.
Very cool. Shawn? I
had a banana and yogurt.
All right, so theme of the day is banana.
Man.
Got it.
Pretty close. Yeah, I'm big on bananas. I've been trying to eat pretty healthy lately, and I love bananas, no doubt.
Nice. Shawn, all right, so you get your own billboard. It's a blank canvas. What would you put up? What would you put on that billboard?
Don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs. All right. Very nice.
That's the first thing that came to mind.
Seriously, man, that's like the most easiest one you could have come up with.
I have another one.
All right.
Go out and vote.
Vote. All right. That's a good one. Mike.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good, especially this time of year. I don't know if this is related to what we do or what, but I'd probably obviously do something to promote the show and get the brand out there even more.
Yep, I can definitely see that. All right. Okay, let's see. Michael, let's stick with you on this one. When you hear the word successful, who's the first person that pops into your head and why?
In the hunting industry or just in general? Just in general.
Maybe the person is in the hunting industry, but who's the first person that pops into your head?
Man, I got to say my dad, really. My dad has been a small business owner the majority of his life, and I think growing up and witnessing that and being a part of that really helped me kind of understand what I wanted to do. And obviously, Shawn's dad as well has been a big role model for us and a big help for us. So he's an entrepreneur as well. So seeing those, growing up with those guys as our dads, really helped kind of, determine what we wanted to do. Shawn and I went to school together, high school together. We went to college together. Both of us studied business management and entrepreneurship. So we've kind of known from day one that we wanted to own our own business, wanted to do, be in the business world. It just so happened that things kind of aligned to where we could, work together and do that together and pursue our passion.
All right, Shawn?
Yeah, I'd definitely say my dad. He, right now he's not too successful. He's over there sleeping in the chair, but
that sounds like a successful move to
really
me.
I guess it is successful. He's resting, but no, he's definitely been a huge mentor of mine, my biggest mentor, and he has shown me my way through life and helped me with pretty much everything I have in this life. far as getting me off my feet and going. So I owe it to him and my mother.
Good answer. Don't leave mom out. All right.
That's right.
And what's a typical, Shawn, let's go to you on this. What's a typical non-hunting day look like, and a day in the life type of thing for you?
Well, since it's my number one hobby, it's what I live and breathe. But so I'll be thinking about that. But every day I usually get up, I eat my breakfast, do a little bit of work, then I go to the gym in my non-hunting days, and then I'll come home, and this land management stuff's kind of become a part of what we do all the time. So that's something that I'm always looking forward to doing, and finding a way that we can better ourselves in our farms.
Nice. Mike?
Yeah, so my non-hunting days, you guys are giving me a hard time about being at home while Shawn's out in the field, just keep finding sheds and stuff, and obviously being a dad's a big part of that and factors into that. But like I said, I spend a lot of time on the business side of things. So, getting up, answering emails, doing calls, setting up, meetings with potential clients, that type of stuff. It's the less attractive part of our job, I guess, but I really enjoy the business part of it. I love people, and I love relationships, and our sponsors, who are, the ones who fund the show, that, so we can do what we love, have really, it's more than just a sponsor and somebody, writing a check and you promoting their products. I mean, it's turned into relationships and friendships for 90% of them. They've been around since the beginning of the show, and so we've really developed those relationships and become really close friends with them. So I really enjoy that whole aspect of the business.
Gotcha. All right, last question, and this is probably more relative. What does a deer hunting day in the life look like for you?
Oh man, it all depends on what kind of hunt you're on, So that's the other thing too. Everybody's like, "Oh man, yeah, you got the glamorous life. You deer hunt for a living." Well, you want to talk about hunting, 30, 40 days straight, not getting up every morning. It becomes a grind, and especially when it's your job, to produce. It's not just getting away from the office and having a good time and hanging out with friends. I mean, it is obviously a blast, but there's a bigger picture to it for us. So Shawn can attest to that, because he had a heck of a run when he was talking about his issues in Colorado, missing those bucks and that type of stuff. He had already been on several hunts, and had spent a lot of time, gone away from home, and a lot of time in the woods. And so it's not always as majestic as it looks on TV, I guess. But it starts off usually by getting up super early, getting to the stand, spending a lot of time in the stand, depending on what time of year it is. But the days are full and they're long, and they definitely wear on you if you, especially when you're having tough times.
Gotcha. All right, Shawn.
Yeah, pretty much exactly what Mike said, except he didn't touch on the production side of stuff. We have a ton of camera gear that we bring along with us. So yes, we typically have someone, or we always have someone filming us, but that's also our job too, is to make sure the story's been told correctly. So keeping all your camera gear organized, all your batteries charged, all your footage dumped, and making sure that that all of your footage has been shot for that episode before you leave that location is also a part of your everyday hunting for us. So
nice.
It's busy.
Yep. Very cool, guys. So, of course, we need to figure out where, once we end this conversation and once the listener is done listening, where can we go online to find more out about you guys, what you're doing, the class, Facebook, Twitter, social media? Give us all those links where we can check you out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously our website, HEARTLANDBOWHUNTER.com, is going to be the main source for everything, but we're really heavily involved on the social side of things, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, pretty much everything. We try to cover all bases, and we try to be really active in that because, we want our followers to be able to see what we're doing no matter what time of year it is. So Snapchat's another big one too. I know it's kind of new for some people, but I really enjoy Snapchat.
All right.
And it's basically 10-second videos or pictures that you can, short pictures that kind of people can kind of follow us and kind of see some of the behind the scenes stuff that you don't see on the show. Maybe we cut up a little more on there and get a little do some more jokes and pranks and stuff. And it's fun. I love Snapchat. It's kind of my new favorite thing. I mean, Instagram's awesome. It's a great place to showcase photography and some of the videos and that type of stuff. But basically, all social media, our website. That's basically where you can find any information.
Cool, guys. I appreciate you taking some time and telling us what's new in your world, and certainly it sounds like, Mike, you got a lot going on, more than you've ever had.
Heck yeah.
Yep.
Hey,
definitely.
Guess what? It's all about timing. You know what I mean?
It really
right
is.
Before turkey season, it's kind of
right. Yeah, you probably planned this, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, we planned out pretty good. This is my second son, so my first one was born in August.
Yeah.
And this one right before turkey season.
Gotcha. Well, you definitely have your hands full. Sounds like you guys just have a lot on your plate in general. It's never ending, and there's the business side of it. There's the filming. There's the hunting. There's the prep work. There's the land management, the game management. You got a lot going on, and it's a full-time job.
No doubt.
I appreciate
it's a labor of love, though. So.
Yeah, absolutely it is, and I sincerely appreciate you taking an hour out of your day and your family life and speaking to me and Dusty, just letting us know, and all of the people that are listening to the show, what's going on at Heartland Bowhunter. We're big fans, and we just keep doing what you're doing, God.
Yeah,
appreciate it, guys.
Always good catching up.
Just always great to hear from old friends.
Yeah, for sure. And they're so full of knowledge, and they enjoy cutting up with each other and kind of pranking around and just having a great time, Jay. And then you start getting serious with them, and they can have a serious side that really can lay some great information out on the table.
I love the show. I love to hear it. I mean, it's so relevant at this time of the year with controlled burns and game management, land management, learning how to deal with timber, overgrown timber, and canopies that need to be taken control of because they're just, I think canopies are probably the biggest thing that people just forget to take care of, really. It's, you always think about the agricultural side of things, but a lot of times it seems like the trees are left out, and it can be as important as the actual things you're planting in the ground. So it sounds like they've got a worldly view of this whole management plan, which is good to hear, and kind of walked us through all the things they're into. I thought that was neat.
Yeah, it's the show's gonna have to be replayed and replayed and replayed, Jay, just to hear them talk about prescribed burns and some timber management programs, and just gonna have to go back through and really break that all down and soak it all into your mental game and utilize what they're talking about.
I thought it was very, very cool. Hey, well, thanks to Shawn and Michael for joining us on the Big Buck Podcast once again. I'm sure we'll check in with them somewhere down the road. Dusty, do we have a Chubby Tines tip of the week this week?
Jay, we try to have a Chubby Tines tip of the week every week.
We always do, and it's one of my favorite segments of this entire show because you bring it. You bring it loud and clear.
I try. That's all I can do. I'm not a pro, and by far am I ever saying I'm the best hunter out there, but...
The Chubby Tines tip of the week is sponsored by Morse's Sporting Goods. Firearms, used firearms, bows, used bows, located at 85 Kentucky Falls Road in Hillsborough, New Hampshire. Give Jim a call at 603-464-3444, morsessportinggoods.com. Your dollars go further in New Hampshire. There's no sales tax. Morse's Sporting Goods.
I'm seeing deer and that's herded up right now, Jay, out in fields and here in Ohio and across the Midwest. I'm sure it's the same way. New Hampshire, somewhat that you're seeing some herded deer, but not as visually accessible as they are here. And, great time to scout around and see what these deer are eating on and kind of where they're moving around to right now. And, see what your numbers are. Utilize this spring weather and get out there and not only shed hunt, but locate where your deer are. Write down some numbers of the deer spottings that you see, and it may encourage you to get some permission in a different area this fall. Try to push yourself a little bit harder to get out there and get on that prime piece of property where you know that there's a large quantity of deer that's been herded up through the late winter months into the spring months here. Before the season starts, you'll have the numbers wrote down, and you're going to look back on that. I do it every year. I look back and I say, man, I drove down this one particular road, and there was 2 farms there that I seen 20 plus deer in one field and maybe 30 deer spread out across another farm in a 2-field section. So it's just that scouting spring, get out, take a little drive, and enjoy your day out there and see what your deer herd looking like in different areas. And I think that if you do that, you'll change your mind on where you're going to ask permission next year and try to get where that large deer herd is, where you know that them doe are there. And with a doe being in that area, a big buck's got to show up there to breed.
Very nice. Very good tip. Dusty, I have a new segment we're trying out this week, something we haven't done before, but it comes from our audience. And the audience has been demanding some more information about deer movement, even this time of year. I thought it was kind of out of season that nobody would care, but we've got a few requests, and during the season we had been posting the deer movement predictions for the week starting on Saturday, so you'd have it for Sunday through Saturday. And what I thought we should do is just do a segment based off of that information so that you can get an idea of the hot days during the week, which days are going to be predicted to be more movement based off of the sun, the solar lunar charts, where the percent of the moon that's out, all those types of things, and give you a feeding period for when the deer should be feeding, the major periods. And I thought we'd put it into audio and have a new segment right here on the Big Buck Podcast. We will be breaking it off onto our Deer Tracks show that's also on iTunes, and you can find that at bigbuckregistry.com/deer tracks, where we break down some of this show, put in some shorter original content, and break these segments into just their own segments on that show if you want to listen to it instead of going through the entire show to get to it. But I thought we'd try that. So here are the deer movement predictions for this week. For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jay Scott with this week's deer movement forecast for the week starting March 13th, 2016. For an explanation of this report and to determine which solar lunar zone you're in, please visit www.bigbuckregistry.com/moon phase and www.bigbuckregistry.com/solunar, SOLUNAR. Don't forget to adjust feeding times to your solar lunar zone. This week is lackluster compared to last, as we'll see transitional moon phases ranging from 28% on Sunday to 87% by Saturday, March 19th. We'll never get above the deer movement high of 3 all week. With the time change for daylight savings, sunrise this week is around 7 a.m. Eastern. Sunset is around 7 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget to adjust your standard time zones for sunset and sunrise. Sunday starts off a little slow with a score of 2 and a moon phase of 28%. The major feeding times are 4:17 p.m. and 3:49 a.m. On Monday, we'll see deer movement pick up a bit, showing a high of 3 and a moon phase increasing to 38%. Major feeding times start at 5:13 p.m. and again at 4:45 a.m. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday follow Monday, hitting a deer movement predictor high of 3, showing a moon phase of 50, 60, and 70% respectively. Tuesday's major feeding times are 6:09 p.m. and 5:41 a.m. Wednesday is 7:03 p.m. and 6:36 a.m. and Thursday is 7:54 p.m. and 7:29 a.m. Friday and Saturday drop back to a deer movement predictor of 1 each day with a moon phase of 79% and 87% respectively. Major feeding times on Friday are 8:44 p.m. and 8:20 a.m. and 9:32 p.m. and 9:08 a.m. on Sunday. So it looks like Monday through Thursday will be the best days to be in the woods relative to deer movement this week. However, none of those days will get higher than a DMPS of 3. Be sure to check out our web links, www.bigbuckregistry.com/barometer1 and www.bigbuckregistry.com/barometer2 for barometric pressure and cold fronts moving through your area. For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jay Scott with the Big Buck Registry's Deer Movement Forecast. All right, so that's the deer movement predictions for this week. Hopefully that helps you out, and we're going to keep doing them. We'll keep doing them all the way through deer season, and all you got to do is tune in to the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast, and we'll have it right here for you to listen to, and you can plan your week just by listening to that one segment. Dusty, this has been a fantastic show. Thanks to Shawn and Michael for joining us on the Big Buck Podcast once again. And Dusty, where can we find you when you're not hanging out here with me on the microphone?
Facebook.com/Chubby Tines Outdoors. You can look me up on Instagram at Chasing Antler, or shoot me an email right here at the Big Buck Registry, dusty@bigbuckregistry.com.
Awesome, man. You can find me, or best place to email me is jay@bigbuckregistry.com. That's the best place. You can always find us on Facebook, facebook.com/bigbuckregistry. If you'd like to submit a picture to be profiled on our Facebook page in front of 250,000 diehard deer hunting fans, all you have to do is go to bigbuckregistry.com/mybuck. Emails are the preferred method and will definitely take priority over any type of Facebook sending or upload. So just want to let you know that. You can find us on Twitter at twitter.com/bigbuckregistry. If you love this show, we could always use your help, and we could use some donations. If you have a couple dollars to spare, you can become a patron. And actually, we have various levels of becoming a patron of the show, starting with $1, which will just show your support, all the way down to $25, where you actually get a hat and a T-shirt. So go to www.bigbuckregistry.com/donate, and all the instructions and all the different levels are right there for you. Well, I think that's just about everywhere we are at, man.
Big buck everywhere. A big buck.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm Jay Scott.
I'm Dusty Phillips.
And this is the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. We'll see you next week.
Can't wait.